This is John Bailey, the epic voice of Honest Trailers, and you're listening to the Five-ish Fangirls podcast. It's a Fangirls podcast with five-ish people. The tangents and squee will continue. Squee.
The tangents as we continue all the way to episode 342 of the Five-ish Fangirls podcast. Time, space, reality. It's more than a linear path. It's a prism of endless possibility where a single choice can branch out into infinite realities, creating alternate worlds from the ones you know. I am the Watcher. I am your guide through these vast new realities. Follow me and ponder the question, what if? Welcome everyone to this week's episode of the Five-ish Fangirls podcast. So glad you could join us. Let's start off like we were from the virtual table and see who's joined us this week.
This is Holly from Wisconsin.
And this is Rachel in Indianapolis, Indiana. This is a table for two.
Yes.
So, unfortunately, it is the way the cookie crumbles sometimes.
Yep.
So, we shall endure.
Yes.
So, as far as we know, this is not the start of a Nexus event. So,
It better not be the start of a Nexus event.
yes. Just a case of the Mondays, am I right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh my. Well, first up,
Mhm.
news, which is one whole piece of news. Rather exciting though, is
Mhm.
Doctor Who is coming back on a Halloween.
Woohoo! I'm surprised the internet didn't get as more broken as it did.
Yeah, it was really funny because the day before the announcement came out, almost every official Doctor Who social media account disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
So this wasn't like when Facebook and like Instagram disappeared for like half a day the week before. This
Right.
was just Doctor Who. Doctor Who's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Like there was the Doctor Who BBC America Twitter, I think, that stayed.
Right. Yeah.
But pretty much every official Doctor Who social media account just disappeared from existence. And I'm over
that
here
was
like, well, I
causing
guess
some
that's
panic.
that's well, I didn't really panic because it was just Doctor Who. So I'm like, they're planning something and they're trying to
Right.
keep something from leaking or something. So
Yeah.
we're getting kind of a rebrand. The logo, I
Mhm.
think, has changed just a little
Yeah.
bit. So, but yeah, it was all up the next day
Mhm.
with images and a little teaser on YouTube.
Mhm.
So I
Sorry,
guess
Sean. No Easter Sunday, but or Easter
Yeah.
Saturday. But
Halloween Saturday,
Sunday.
Easter Halloween,
Yeah.
Easterween.
Easter week there.
There's candy involved either way. So
Exactly. And hopefully it's more treats than tricks.
yes, well, we can hope. So
Mhm.
yeah, we don't really know a whole lot other
No,
than
we
just if you're in the UK, there was a phone number you can call, and there's a recorded message from the doctor, but it's a UK phone number. So
Right.
um,
Do I want to run up my phone bill or no?
yeah.
Hmm.
Well, and somebody posted it, and
Oh, they did?
then,
Cool.
yeah, in one of the Facebook groups I'm in, but unfortunately I can't remember which group it is and who
I
it was
think I might.
that
I
they
think I'm one
that
of
they
the two, but I
called and
can't
recorded
remember.
it, and posted it so that those of us outside the UK could hear it. But I didn't get a chance to click on it and actually hear it at the time.
Me either.
And when I went back, I'm like, I don't remember which group this was in.
And of course, silly me, because some of those I try to remember to click, save link to watch for later, or I try to like it so I can go back in my under the settings. It's like, oh, here's the post you've liked, so you can find it. Did I do that? No.
Yeah, me neither.
Mm.
So, yeah, I might just have to do some Googling or something.
Yeah.
I'm sure more than one person has posted it.
Yeah.
Like, I'm in too many fan groups.
Me too. And of course, it's usually always the last one you look for. It's like, oh no, they wouldn't have posted this. Yeah, they were the ones.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I guess we could assume. I guess we can assume that this is the start of the season.
I would think
they haven't actually said season because they've actually given it a name. So I don't know if this is going to be like an overarching, like, story arc throughout the season. This whole flux thing.
Right. It's possible. Yeah.
So I guess we'll find out on Halloween. We'll find out in 20 days as we're recording this.
I can't wait.
We'll find out slightly under 3 weeks.
Yes. Let the countdown begin. And supposedly somebody had, on one of the Facebook groups I had seen, they had done some digging in schedules, and it sounds like BBC America is going to do their typical marathon.
Nice.
So I was like, ooh.
So get caught up, refresh yourself.
Please. Yes.
What Jodie's been up to. So.
Yes.
That's cool. So I did like in the little thing though with the doctor where she's like, the flux is coming. Apparently whatever this is bringing in like all sorts of things that, it's kind of like it's Stonehenge all over again.
The Panopticon.
Yes.
Or did the doctor get a hold of another doctor's flux capacitor? And
yeah, I don't know. But we at least from what she said, we know for sure we're getting Sontarans, which we've not seen the Sontarans in a while. So
no, we haven't.
That will be exciting. And the Weeping Angels.
Oh boy.
So we've not seen the Weeping Angels in quite a while either.
No, we haven't, because I think the last time we saw them was right around the time Amy and Rory went back in time.
Yep. So, well, I don't think we've seen the Sontarans since we've only had them once? David Tennant was the doctor?
That was because I think of course we had Strax, but I think it was
Strax is his own thing.
Right. I think it was season 4, right before the Doctor's daughter with Atmos.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. That was during David Tennant's run.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's cool. Get to see some baddies that we haven't seen in a while.
I'm
here for it.
Yep. Yay. Just remember, don't blink and aim for the back of the neck.
Yeah, exactly. That could be interesting.
Yep.
All right. Well, that's it for the news.
Okay.
So got some feedback from Shalane.
Oh, thank you, Shalane.
Yes, talking about Disney World. She says Disney World is a great place to go. Yes, it is. She went back in 2016. She said she got to do a backstage tour and saw where they keep the floats and the costumes.
Cool.
So that is very cool. Oh, what else? Trying to clean off my glasses. She says, I went on the Great Movie Ride and the sad is not there anymore. Me too. I like the Great Movie Ride. It was fun. It was cheesy as hell, but I loved it. She has a friend that she went to college with who has worked there. She wants to go back. Don't we all? See the world of Pandora, which is beautiful. And they do Guardians of the Galaxy ride and Star Wars Land and Toy Story Land. Yeah, because both. Last time I was there, Pandora was the new thing.
I heard Pandora is just plain awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely gorgeous. And the attractions there. I mean, the Navi River ride is not a thrill ride by any means because you're just riding in a boat, but the theming goes into it, so it's very, very cool. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Weather.
Right there with you.
And then the Flight of Passage, where you get to simulate essentially riding the thingies, the dragon thingies.
I can't remember what their names are right at the moment, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's so cool. And I have not been back since. So, but yeah, like Galaxy's Edge was under construction last time I was there, but you really couldn't see anything. You were just like, construction walls, and you're like, Star Wars. So yeah, there's a whole lot there that's going to be new next time I finally get to go back. And then she lists some of her favorite rides: Splash Mountain, Great Movie Ride, Small World, Tower Terror, Jungle Cruise, Rock and Roller Coaster, Pirates. I love Pirates. Safari, Expedition Everest, Haunted Mansion, Star Tours.
Yep.
And then she also mentions that. Nope, lost that sneeze. She also says, I also heard at Hollywood Studios they used to have a big Mickey Sorcerer's hat. Yes, they did. It used to be when you entered the park and went straight ahead to where the replica of Grauman's Chinese Theater still technically is, even though it's not the Great Movie Ride in that building anymore. It's now Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway Adventure thing. But yes, for a while there was a it wasn't like a stage because it wasn't like super high. It was just like a concrete giant pad that was a couple of steps high. And actually there was a small retail kiosk there where you could buy pins. But they'd also use it for staging for some things. But yes, it was the hat from the Sorcerer's Apprentice from Fantasia, the giant blue, pointy hat, wizard hat, was the bit of it, and it blocked essentially the front of the Chinese theater facade. So if you wanted to get a shot of it, you weren't going to. If you wanted like that nice, shot down the main drag of the studios with Grauman's Chinese Theater there at the end, no, it wasn't happening. It was there when I first went to the studios for the first time. So I didn't know any different until they finally took it away several years ago. I've only ever seen pictures. With it. I don't know. Don't know, don't care. It probably went in the same pile as the birthday cake castle decoration. Like, this was a thing we tried.
It didn't work.
Let's not ever do this again. So, yeah, there was a hat. So, Ask me sometime. I'll also tell you about the giant wand that was attached to Spaceship Earth at Epcot. But that's a story for another time.
Yeah. A wand.
Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Are we talking like blue fairy wand, or are we talking like the wand used in Sorcerer's Apprentice?
No, more like blue fairy wand. So,
I'll
dig up pictures and I'll show them.
I'll
post them on Facebook so everyone can see. So, and then she asked if we watched any of the behind the attraction stuff on Disney Plus. I haven't yet. I know
I haven't either.
I should. Part of me kind of doesn't want to because it'll make me even more homesick.
Mm-hmm.
Tear. Oh, I'll watch them eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe when I'm closer to actually having a trip planned, because then I can be more excited. Like, ooh, I can't wait to see that. And then she suggests we should do podcast. She doesn't say whether multiple or just one. I guess we could decide.
Mm-hmm.
But we should do a podcast of the movies that are based on Disney attractions.
Ooh.
Then she mentions the Tower of Terror movie, which I've never seen. Apparently is
Me and heights don't mix.
Yeah. Was it the Tower of Terror? I know there was a Haunted Mansion one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that had Eddie Murphy in it.
Yeah, and then the Tower of Terror one. Did they actually ever make that one?
I'm not sure. I thought it might have been
the Tower of Terror, or were they going to make another Haunted Mansion one? I can't remember which of the attractions it was. One of the spooky ones.
They did a Muppets Haunted Mansion. That's just
yes, I know that just got released on Disney Plus, which I've not watched yet, but apparently it's actually supposed to be really good.
That's what I've been hearing too.
But Guillermo del Toro, for the longest time, has been trying to do either a Tower of Terror or Haunted Mansion movie. And just hasn't been able to get it off the ground. So, which that might actually be frightening.
There actually is a Tower of Terror movie. Came out in '97.
Okay.
With Steve Guttenberg, a young Kristen Dunst, and Nia Peoples.
Okay then.
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, they're not making any more Police Academy movies. What else can I do?
Mm-hmm. Oh, it sounds like it was one of the Wonderful World of Disney movies.
Made for TV.
Yes.
Yeah, Disney making movies based on their attractions is kind of like just Hollywood in general trying to make movies based on video games.
Looking at you, Super Mario Brothers.
Uh-huh. So, yeah, it's hit and miss. Obviously, the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, I love those.
Yeah.
Yes. Regardless of what you may think of how the franchise finished out.
Yes. Yeah.
I've thoroughly enjoyed the Pirates movie. So.
And when they cast Keith Richards, it's one of the pirates. It was just like, oh, perfect.
Yeah. And then she mentions the Jungle Cruise movie because apparently it is really good. That's what I've heard too. Actually,
same here. Yeah,
it's actually very good. So, she says it's kind of like The Mummy and Indiana Jones.
Ooh, nice.
Which that's a good combination. So.
Yes, it is.
Yep. So, yeah, I may have to do that at some point.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny now because now they're making attractions based on movies, which is the way it's usually been.
Yeah.
Yeah, but not fairy tales, like we're not, they've done Snow White and Pinocchio and Alice in Wonderland. Now we're getting Guardians of the Galaxy as attractions, so.
Nice. Yes, please.
Yes, please. Please and thank you. So, well, speaking of Guardians of the Galaxy and Marvel.
Nice little segue.
Move on to this week's main topic, which is the first season, because we know we're already getting the second one. And have already technically seen bits of this, at least part of the second season, because they used some. And we'll get to that. Because I know there was one scene in particular that confused some people. So, in the last episode.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that. But yeah, Marvel's What If, the animated anthology series that I was excited for. I mean, it's Marvel. I'm always going to be excited. And I knew of Captain Carter. I've known about her since that comic was released, because everybody's like, "Oh my God, look at Peggy!" With the shield and the Union Jack and everything. And so I knew of that one, but I didn't really know of any of the others. But I understood kind of the premise, but seeing this actually come to fruition and actually watch these storylines was just, it's so cool. Especially because it's animated, so they can do all sorts of things.
Yes, they don't
relatively
have to worry
inexpensively.
Right, they don't have a special effects budget to worry about. Like,
they just got to be able to draw
it to do this.
So it
saves on stunts. It saves on stuntmen.
Exactly, and the fact that so much of the MCU cast came back.
Yes. That says a lot.
Says a ton. And the fact that they started this like 2 or 3 years ago is when they had like the initial kernel of the idea.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, and they recorded, like they did all the voice recording and everything a couple of years ago. So we were able to get most everybody. There's some that didn't, either because technically that person is done with Marvel, so their contract, they're done with their contract. So they would have to renegotiate a new contract for them just to come back to do the voiceover thing. You're thinking like Robert Downey Jr., they've killed off Tony Stark. Tony's done. So RDJ's not coming back. Chris Evans, Steve Rogers, he's done. He's not going to come back. But most everybody else came back. If anyone else didn't do their own voice, it tended to be a scheduling issue. Like Tom Holland wasn't able to do this because he was filming when they were doing the recordings. He was filming Spider-Man No Way Home, and then the Last of Us.
So I think so. Yeah, that sounds right.
Film as well. So he was just way too busy to do it. Apparently, some of them it was just dumb issues, like Batista.
Agents.
Yeah, Batista's agent never bothered to tell him that they were doing this.
Time for a new agent.
So
last paycheck.
Yeah. But pretty much everybody else came back, regardless of how much involvement like their character actually had. Like, did Jeff Goldblum really need to come back to be the Grand Master for Party Thor? Not necessarily, but he did.
Yes.
So,
Mm-hmm.
so we've got 9 episodes
Mm-hmm.
in our first season, starting with what if Captain Carter were the first Avenger. This is fairly straightforward as far as
Mm-hmm.
the story is concerned. It's Captain America,
Yeah.
first Avenger, but Steve. Everything with the Watcher at the beginning, and the premise that he sets from the very start with this first episode is one single choice can make have a butterfly effect essentially in how things go forward. In this case, it's Peggy deciding to stay down on the floor as they're getting ready to put Steve in the pod, as opposed to going up to the observation deck.
Yep.
That was essentially the nexus event for this. So when the Hydra guy tries to blow up the lab and steal the serum, Steve ends up getting injured, is not able to go through the transformation, so Peggy does it in his place. And essentially everything goes, they still follow a lot of because these episodes are like 30 minutes,
right.
So they got a speed run through a lot of things, but if you've seen the MCU movies, anyway. So
exactly.
So Peggy gets the shield, the vibranium shield. She and Steve still flirt with each other. Howard Stark is still
yep. Still his smug, arrogant. No, you're forgiven. The handsome, debonair, typical Howard Stark.
Yes.
Ready to teach Junior all the moves.
Yes. Yeah. But in this case, Steve is still scrawny, but what they do is they actually do get their hands on the Tesseract after Red Skull gets it. They manage to get it from him, and Howard is able to make a big old suit. Kind of looks like the Hulkbuster.
Yeah, it does.
But with call it the Hydra, the Hydra Stomper. So Steve's able to essentially do what Bruce had to do in Infinity War, since he didn't have the ability to be the Hulk. Give him a big old suit instead, and he could just punch people with the big old metal fists. So, but Steve is the one that ends up getting lost on the train instead of Bucky. They put that little line in there when Peggy saves Bucky from almost falling off the train. He's like, "Oh, you almost ripped off my arm."
It's like, I got that reference.
Yeah. So, but yeah. So, so Schmidt ends up using the Tesseract as a portal opener to summon essentially an actual Hydra. Except this doesn't have multiple heads, but it has a lot of tentacles.
Yeah, it does.
And of course, being the bad guy, it goes badly for him, but someone has to stop it. Someone has to close the portal and stop the monster. So Peggy is the one doing her equivalent of putting it in the ice, promising Steve that they will go on their date Saturday night. And then 70 years later, she pops out the other end of the portal, right where Loki would in our timeline for the start of the first Avengers movie. So, to a very surprised Nick Fury and Clint.
Yeah.
So that was pretty straightforward. But it's still really cool. Lots of nods and winks to not just Captain America, but the Avengers and all sorts of other Easter eggs and everything. So, but then episode number 2. Try not to get emotional.
Yeah, no kidding.
Again, what if T'Challa became Star-Lord?
Oh, this one I've had a few favorites, and this one kind of ranks up there.
Oh yeah,
in favorite episodes.
This is easily. Oh my goodness, this is definitely top 3.
Yes,
of the 9 for me. So, but oh my goodness, this is just, well, first of all, it's Chadwick. They did this before Chadwick passed. So, and apparently when he found out about it, Chadwick was just so excited to be able to do this. So he was like, yeah, absolutely, but the story is essentially, instead of Yondu being the one to go pick up Ego's kid from Earth, for some reason Kraglin and Taserface get sent on the mission instead. Which, first of all, Yondu should have known better.
Yeah, those two, no. One job, forget it.
Yeah.
That's like the blind leading the blind.
Yeah, exactly. Which, Michael Rooker back as Yondu, Sean Gunn as Kraglin, Chris Sullivan as Taserface. But, they're on Earth, or Terran, as the Ravagers like to call it. And they know that Ego, as a Celestial, his child is going to give off a reading that's not human.
Mm-hmm.
So they're looking for alien signatures, but instead of going to Missouri, where they would have found Peter Quill, instead their equipment takes them to Wakanda, which, they couldn't have known. I mean, nobody's supposed to know about vibranium and Wakanda.
No.
So, I can't really blame them for that. But a young T'Challa comes across them, and as far as they're concerned, it's a young boy, Earthling looking like. Therefore, it must be the right kid, because as far as they're concerned, all Terrans look the same.
Right, and they don't confirm with the boss before. Right, and they don't bother to call and ask Yondu, "Hey, boss, this the kid?"
Yeah, exactly. But then Yondu is like, "Hey kid, you want to go traveling the universe?" And T'Challa's like, "Absolutely." Like, as a young kid, he's like, "Oh yeah, my parents are gonna miss me." So he takes off and becomes a member of the Ravagers, but he's he's still T'Challa.
Yes.
So this, even growing up with the Ravagers, T'Challa still is like the good guy. Sees the best in everybody. Calm. Collected.
Yes. Almost a consigliere to the rest. To these guys.
Mean, like when he's going to get the the orb that we know later has one of the Infinity Stones in it, and what's his name, Korath, shows up, and instead of like who with Peter Quill, he's like, Star-Lord, man, legendary out. This guy knows who T'Challa is, and just fanboys out, and ends up taking him with him and giving him a job. But then they go to this bar and hanging out with all sorts of just random people from all over the place. So like Drax is the bartender, and
Marvel's version of the Star Wars cantina.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, Nebula, who has long blonde hair. And Thanos.
Yes.
Is just hanging out. Hasn't bothered to look for the Infinity Stones because T'Challa talked him out of committing universe-wide genocide.
Yeah. It's just like
just by talking to him.
Metal. Yes. It's just like give that man.
That is not the most T'Challa thing ever. If that's just not the most Chadwick thing ever.
That's
honestly.
To paraphrase Black Panther's quote, get that man his shield. Give that man his award.
Yes. Oh my god. Apparently all we needed was T'Challa to sit down with Thanos and have it out with him. Have just a calm, rational discussion. And that's all we needed. We could have saved ourselves. I don't think Doctor Strange saw that.
No. Don't think so.
Yeah. I think we were far beyond that for that to be one of the 14,605 possibilities.
Yeah. Well, and then we're not sure if Strange was saying those possibilities and doing a little Obi-Wan Kenobi from a certain point of view.
Yeah, so that too.
We really want to tell them about this.
Yeah. I mean, maybe when Thanos landed in Wakanda, if he hadn't landed in the middle of the forest.
True. Yeah.
Right where, Vision and Wanda were.
Yeah.
He landed in the middle of the battlefield where T'Challa would have seen him, maybe.
Yeah.
But, well. Oh my goodness. So yeah, instead of like Thanos or Ego or whoever being the bad guy, it's the Collector is our bad guy, which all sorts of being at nowhere where the Collector has his prizes locked up is just ripe for all sorts of Easter eggs. We've got Thor's hammer, Captain America's shield, all sorts of things from phase 1 and phase 2. The Collector ends up trying to use Hela's crown thing as a weapon.
Yeah.
Howard the Duck is there, of course.
Yes.
As always. Again, this is not going to be the last time we see Howard. Oh my goodness. But yeah, there's this whole there's supposed to be like this whole heist, like Ocean's 11 type thing.
Yeah.
There's a double cross. But then there's a triple cross with Nebula.
Yeah.
And then they come across one of the ships from Wakanda, which reminds T'Challa, oh yeah, he used to be from Earth. He had a family, so he ends up going back to Wakanda so he can be reunited with his parents. And
yes. And Nebula's nickname for T'Challa was cute. I can't remember what it was at the moment. Right now.
I don't either. But yeah. And then we see Ego going to pick up his son, who is much older now and working at Dairy Queen.
Yep.
In Missouri. But yeah, that entire episode is just, I was smiling the entire time
Yes.
until the end when they had the little thing on the screen. It's like, in remembrance of our friend, Chadwick Boseman. And I was like,
yeah.
Yeah. Like, oh, now he's gone. Of course, I didn't know at the time that he would actually be popping up in 3 more episodes. So this actually was not the last time we'd be hearing Chadwick's voice. I thought that was
this
it.
was the one and done.
So I'm like mourning, like trying to, have my moments. And it's like, and then he popped up again. I was like, oh, he's still around. So, oh my goodness. Then things get a little darker with episode 3. What if the world lost its mightiest heroes, aka if Fury's big week went really, really badly.
Yeah, aka the revenge of Daddy Pym.
Yes. Yeah, so if you're familiar enough with the Marvel timeline, ish, as it's been mostly established, Fury's big week, and that's why they have the days of the week on there, because this was actually a tie-in comic that was released back in 2012. The events of Iron Man 2, Thor, and the Incredible Hulk are all taking place at the same time in universe, which is why in Iron Man 2, once Mr. Stark gets down from the donut, Fury is going off on Tony and says, I have enough problems over in the Southwest quadrant. That's the events of Thor, is what he's talking about there. So this is Fury's big week gone very, very badly, where someone is managing to kill off the future Avengers team before the Battle of New York commences. So we get Tony Stark killed for the first time this season. This will not be the first. This will not be the last time Tony Stark gets killed.
No, he's starting to catch up with the Winchester brothers.
Yes, or certain Rory.
Yeah.
So Tony Stark gets killed when by no fault of her own, we find out later, but when Natasha gives him the shot when he's still dealing with the palladium poisoning to try to take the edge off. And then Thor gets killed seemingly by Clint when Thor shows up to try to retrieve the hammer. When Clint's arrow accidentally gets released, but Clint claims he didn't do it, and then Clint ends up dying while in custody. So, and unfortunately, a lot of eyes go towards Natasha, which why Natasha would kill her best friend is but of course, Alexander Pierce, who's still in charge at this time, Hydra, wants to blame somebody. Meanwhile, Nick Fury is like, yeah, I know better. I know you didn't do it. So he sends Natasha off to go and try and warn Bruce Banner, where we get essentially Bruce Banner and Betty Ross from The Incredible Hulk, but it's Mark Ruffalo, not the other guy.
Yeah.
So, even though, as far as the movies are concerned, Bruce Banner was played by somebody else, doesn't matter. As far as the MCU is concerned, Bruce Banner is Mark Ruffalo. So,
yep.
Yeah. When he says in the Avengers, the last time I was in New York and broke Harlem, that's what he's talking about. So, it's Ruffalo. But that was pretty cool, though, to essentially go back to that. But it's like, yes, this is the Bruce Banner we should have had the entire time. But he manages to get killed, which is supposed to be seemingly impossible.
Right.
So, so yeah, we're losing Avengers left and right, and then Loki shows up because the Crown Prince of Asgard, his brother, is dead, and Natasha ends up getting killed right before, right after she figures out who it is and gets a message off to Nick Fury, and with Loki's help, they manage to corner Hank Pym, who looks like he is one more sleepless night away from just completely combusting. He's not in a good place. This Hank Pym, though, because Hope died. It's inferred that she was the engineer on the mission to the Ukraine that Natasha went on, where Natasha got shot by the Winter Soldier. So yeah, Hope has been killed, and of course Hank doesn't know that his wife may still be alive, trapped in the quantum realm. So he's just a grieving father who's just gone. Woohoo! But they're able to apprehend him. He gets taken off to, I guess, be tried by Asgard, which I'm sure will not go well for killing, Thor. But then Loki is all like, "Oh, all your heroes are dead. I'm gonna take over Earth now. No need for a Battle of New York or anything. Like, yeah, you don't have any heroes, so yeah, I'm just gonna take over Earth now."
Thanks, Hank.
Yeah.
Checks in the mail.
He saw an opening and he just went with it, which I mean is so Loki. That is such a Loki move. Yeah, he sees an opportunity and he just sees the brass ring and he is just grabbing for it. Thankfully, Fury's still got a few more cards in his back pocket, like a certain frozen captain who needs to be thawed out, and also that intergalactic pager that he's been holding on to for the last 20 years ish. So he's not completely without help, which is good. So I mean, this was dark, but at the same time, I was also loving this because Clark Gregg's back as Coulson.
Yes. And oh man, the man's password.
Made me so happy. Every time he popped up on the screen, I was just like, "Oh, I missed you so much." Hanging out with Fury and your Shield people, and he's sniffing Thor's dead body, talking about how it smells like lilacs.
Yeah.
And his password includes the 4th of July, which is Steve Rogers' birthday. So yeah. So this is dark, but also at the same time, I was like, Coulson. So
all that darkness kind of lowered when you saw the Coulson.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh. But then, if that wasn't dark enough, then we go really dark. This is the darkest of the series, but this is also one of my absolute favorites as well. So it's between this and the T'Challa Star-Lord are up there for me. It asked me, and then ask me again tomorrow, and they may reverse. So. So what if Doctor Strange lost his heart instead of his hands?
Yep. And this kind of is the turning point and the whole setup pretty much for the rest of the other episodes.
Yes, exactly. So when Doctor Strange has his car accident. In this case, the Nexus event is that when he invites Christine Palmer to go with him, she agrees to go, and she dies in the wreck instead of Strange just getting injured and losing the function of his hands. So, but yeah, this was dark. That's the only way to put it. It's just,
dark.
Doctor Strange. He still becomes, master of the mystic arts, and discovers the Eye of Agamotto and uses it for exactly the thing that both the Ancient One and Wong told him to absolutely not do, because messing with time can mess with the fabric. Again, Wong is the unsung hero here. So, because we get essentially two stories, but they're in the same timeline, because the Ancient One is able to figure out how to split Strange into two separate entities, still existing in the same timeline. Because she's drawing all of her power from the dark dimension, so she's got that kind of power.
Right.
So, the more sane Doctor Strange listens to Wong, and he has like his one night out of the year where he grieves, the anniversary of Christine's death, and grieves, and then moves on with his life, being a master of the mystic arts. But evil, I don't say evil, he's not really evil, he's just not mentally healthy. He's suffering from extreme grief and PTSD, I'm sure, too. So most people have been dubbing the dark version as Strange Supreme. So Strange Supreme ends up using the Eye of Agamotto, going back in time to the Lost Library of Cagliostro, where he meets Cagliostro, and uses the books to learn how he can gain the power to stop Christine from dying, because he had been trying to do it and was doing different alternate timelines, and every single one, the universe would find a way to kill her, to quote, a different doctor, fixed point in time.
And basically Strange is doing an Anakin minus a certain senator, emperor, just like, there's a way to prevent them from dying.
In this case, it is unnatural. Very, very unnatural. So he ends up having to spend centuries absorbing the powers of various magical beings from all over the universe.
And some of them are not that nice looking. Let's just put it that way.
It was like some of them, like the way, and he has to work his way up. Like he starts with like the biggest one and realizes he can't do it. He's like, okay, obviously I need to start small. It's like when you first start working out, like start with the 3-pound dumbbells, and work your way up to like the 100 pounds, dumbbells. So he starts with like a garden gnome. Like something out of Harry Potter. Magical garden gnome. And works his way up actually to the same Hydra monster that Peggy Carter will end up defeating in the 1940s. Because at this point, Strange has gone hundreds of years in the past. And he doesn't destroy that monster, he just steals some of its tentacles, which is all he needs. So the creature's able to survive long enough to get to 1940, where it pops out thanks to Red Skull, and then gets defeated by Peggy Carter, Captain Carter. So it ends up that, Strange Supreme and our Stephen Strange, Dr. Strange, end up having to face each other. or Stephen Strange doesn't win.
No, he doesn't.
Good Stephen doesn't win.
No.
He loses. And he ends up bringing Christine back in the paradox, ends up literally destroying that universe.
And Christine's not too thrilled with this whole thing either.
Well, yeah, I mean, you go from being dead to not dead, and it turns out that your boyfriend has all of a sudden, become a magician and doesn't look like himself anymore. He's got like tentacles and multiple eyeballs and all sorts of things. Mm-hmm. So yeah. So the universe ends up getting destroyed, but Strange Supreme is able to preserve just a tiny bit of it for him to live with himself and what he's done for all of eternity.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, the Watcher is, looking over his shoulder going, sorry, dude, can't help you.
Yeah. And he's probably...
Even though he asked for help.
Yeah. And he's probably starting to think, should I have let this happen?
Yes. Yeah, this is the first time that somebody acknowledges the Watcher, it recognizes that the Watcher is there, and acknowledges his existence, and makes the Watcher second guess maybe some of his life choices.
Mm-hmm. Like, yes, I know I promised to be hands off, but maybe I should have stepped in and said, don't do it.
Mm-hmm. It's too late now. That universe is bye-bye.
Uh-huh. The train has left the station and you can't call it back.
Mm-hmm. Those horses have gone out of the barn and ain't nothing happening to bring those babies back. So.
Not enough hay in the world.
Yep. But keep that in mind, because like Holly insinuated, this is where things take a turn towards the where this particular season is headed. So these things will come back to be important. But first, episode 5, what if zombies?
This out of all of them was the toughest
so off the rails
to watch. Yes. This one, kind of like you and the spiders, I'm not that big of a fan of zombies.
Yeah, I mean,
it was a bit of a homework one for me.
It is very...
I watched it, though.
Gross. But not too terribly gross. It just so happens that the guy that wrote the zombie comics is the same guy that would go on to create The Walking Dead. So...
so that makes sense. I've seen like 2 episodes of The Walking Dead, so I'm just like, that explains why it had some. I was like, this almost seems like it could be an episode of The Walking Dead.
There's some physical similarities that could be why. Although the zombies' overall function is different.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, in this case, Hank Pym doesn't lose hope, so doesn't go crazy. Ends up going. Essentially, this is the events of Ant-Man and the Wasp and the start of Infinity War.
Yes.
Where Bruce Banner gets sent from the Asgardian ship back to Earth, falls through the roof of the sanctum, moaning and groaning about how Thanos is coming.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no Dr. Stranger Wong to greet him. And Wong complaining about how he'd really like tuna melt. So Bruce, ends up exiting the sanctum onto the New York street and is greeted by the Thanos's minions, Cull Obsidian and Ebony Maw.
Mm-hmm.
But Bruce is saved by Tony Stark and Doctor Strange and Wong.
Yep.
Which he thinks is awesome at first. We get that line that we get from later in actual Infinity War, like, "Oh, you guys are so screwed now." But in this case, Bruce realizes really quickly that actually he's the one that's screwed because his friends are zombies, and these guys have just been turned into zombies.
Yep.
But he ends up getting saved by Hope and the Cloak of Levitation. And Peter Parker.
Thank heavens for Cloak.
Yes. Cloaky, Levy.
Yep.
It tends to get referred to as Levy in fan fiction. That's the name that most of the fan fiction writers have gone with. Levitation, Levy.
I like it.
Yeah.
I'll buy it for $1.
Yeah. So Bruce finds out that Hank Pym had figured out how to get to the quantum realm to save his wife, but unfortunately Janet had been infected with a virus that turned her into a zombie, so she was patient 0. And so she ends up infecting Hank. They return from the quantum realm. Scott and Hope both get attacked, but Hope gets away. Scott does not. And within 24 hours, most of the United States is been changed. The Avengers respond, but they end up getting infected themselves. So there's a small group of survivors that Bruce is now part of. Includes Bucky, Okoye, Sharon Carter, Happy Hoke.
Yep. Well, I love Happy in this. Yeah, I love him in this episode.
I'm not single. I'm saving myself for Thor.
Yeah.
And Kurt. It was. I guess we can assume Luis and the van got converted into zombies at some point.
Yeah.
But Kurt is okay. He's fine. So they end up realizing that there is a possible cure based on the signal that they've picked up coming from Camp Lehigh, which is the camp in New Jersey. Which
started it all.
Well, yeah. But that's also the camp that is where that's where Steve and Natasha go in Winter Soldier, right? Where they discover Zola and Hydra. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So they have to get there, but are attacked on the way by more zombies, including Zombie Clint, Zombie Sam, Zombie Steve. Who end up killing Happy and Sharon, but not before Happy tries to get some shots off with one of Tony's gauntlets going blam blam.
Right, yes. I love Natasha's comment about the blam blams.
Yeah. Hope ends up getting infected, but before she turns, she's able to help the others get to the camp, where they meet Vision, who, of course, it cannot be turned into a zombie because he's not human. And the Mind Stone, in theory, can reverse the virus's effects, but turns out the Vision has no desire to actually help anybody. He just needs more food for zombie Wanda. Because if Scarlet Witch wasn't powerful enough, zombie Scarlet Witch. Because the zombies in as far as in this universe are concerned, they don't walk really fast. They can't speak. But if they had superpowers, they still have those powers, which means zombie Wanda still has her Scarlet Witch powers.
Yeah, and don't tick her off. Ooh,
yeah,
boy,
and even if they're not super powered, if they were really skilled at something, Like Clint with his bow and arrows, still really good at it, even as a zombie.
Yep.
So, it's really that Vision really just needs more food for Wanda because he's slowly been feeding her pieces of T'Challa.
Yeah.
I was like, yay, more Chadwick. Oh, he's missing a leg.
Not good. So this is kind of the opposite spectrum of WandaVision, where Wanda's doing everything in her power to remember Vision. Vision's doing everything in his power to keep Wanda alive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's pretty crazy. But Vision, he ends up seeing the error of his ways and sacrifices himself so that they can take the Mind Stone to try and use it to save the world. So they're like, Okoye is like, well, we can go to Wakanda because Wakanda, as far as she knows, has not been infected because Wakanda's been really good about keeping themselves shut off from the outside world, not realizing that zombie Thanos is waiting for them with an almost complete set of Infinity Stones on his Infinity Gauntlet.
Yeah, that was just like, say what?
Yeah.
I don't like this.
Yeah. So we've had Tony Stark killed by Hank Pym. We've had Tony Stark killed because he turned into a zombie. Now we're going to have what if Killmonger rescued Tony Stark and eventually kills him? Where instead of getting blown up and being captured by the 10 Rings in Afghanistan, Tony gets saved by Eric Killmonger Stevens. And Killmonger becomes his new best friend.
Yeah, instead of Rhodey.
Yeah, essentially. So,
and I love too how you're a few minutes in, and then during the press conference, Killmonger just like, Obadiah, you want to explain why you set out a hitch on Tony here? It's like,
which I did enjoy that.
I did too. I'm just like, okay, I'm liking you, but I knew the other foot, the other shoe was gonna drop. I'm just like, okay, how soon? How quick?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, Killmonger like does everything to get on Tony's good side and make him love him. Exposing Obadiah Stane.
Yep. He can do no wrong in Tony's eyes.
Yeah, he ends up offering
Happy. Their danger meter is just hitting the red.
Oh yeah. The entire time they're like, Tony, you sure about this? It's like Tony found himself a son. He never knew he needed or wanted.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's just really Killmonger in this is doing really what he did in Black Panther. He is playing the long game.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So getting the drones that are essentially the drones that Justin Hammer ends up having built by Vanco in Iron Man 2, but in this case is Killmonger's design and using the ring that Killmonger has from his father that's made out of vibranium as the power source. But they end up needing more vibranium, so that ends up bringing in Ulysses Claw. Oh my goodness, Andy Serkis is so good.
Yeah.
But in the process of that, the transaction goes wrong. T'Challa shows up, ends up getting killed.
Along with Rhodey.
Yeah. So, yeah. So, and then Tony figures out that Killmonger was the one to do everything, so he ends up killing Tony. R.I.P. Tony for the third time in this series.
Yep.
So he ends up Killmonger essentially gets it to make Wakanda think that Tony Stark was going to use the drones to invade Wakanda.
Right. Yeah.
But since he was the one that helped design the drones, he's able to manipulate them turning off and on. But then the Wakandan army ends up defeating the drones, and because T'Challa is dead,
right,
Killmonger gets to become the new
Black Panther. Yeah.
So, but he doesn't know that Shuri smells a rat and ends up hooking up with Pepper.
Yes.
At the end.
Yes, this is like I wanted episode 2, Shuri and Pepper plotting their
how they're gonna fix this.
Yes, for Killmonger's downfall. Maybe season 2. I'm hoping.
Yeah.
If they go that way.
Yeah. Maybe. And then we get probably one of my other favorite episodes, even though it takes a hard left turn at the end.
Oh yeah.
But up until that point, this episode is just so fun. What if Thor were an only child?
Yes. Oh boy.
Where instead of adopting baby Loki as his own, Odin takes him back.
Yes.
To Frost Giants.
Here you go.
So Thor ends up not having a little brother to teach him how to be a somewhat decent human being. So that when Odin goes into Odin sleep, like he does in the first movie, Thor, who's supposed to be studying, to help him get ready to become king of Asgard, while his mom goes off to visit her sister, he decides to go to Midgard, aka Earth, and throw a big old rager all around the globe.
Yeah, to paraphrase Zed, he's throwing an intergalactic kegger.
Yes. It's just nuts. I mean, we still get Jane Foster and Darcy, who I love. Because when Thor lands, he lands in Las Vegas. So kind of still the Southwest quadrant that Nick Fury was, complaining about. And it just spreads out from Las Vegas to and like everybody from all of his friends. So like you've got Lady Sif, and Hogan and Fandral, show up, and Loki, who has grown up as a frost giant, but he and Thor have known each other still and are really good friends. They're BFFs. So like Loki shows up, and like I said, with like I said, Korg. So Taika Waititi shows up. Like I said, Jeff Goldblum, he didn't need to come back to be the Grandmaster, but he did. You get if you listen carefully, you get a little bit of the Grandmaster's music from Thor Ragnarok. The soundtrack, you hear it in, it's very distinct. Meanwhile, Jane is like, we've got contact with someone from another world, and this whole thing is crazy. She's trying to contact S.H.I.E.L.D. to let them know, and at first they're like, yeah, you're nuts. Don't call this number ever again.
Right.
But then it turns out that actually there are people at S.H.I.E.L.D. that believe her. So we get Nick Fury again, Maria Hill, Clark Gregg, Coulson again, Brock Rumlow, you know, and Fury ends up calling in Captain Marvel, Carol,
Yep.
to try and stop them.
And Carol has to go and make a trip to visit Mama.
Yes.
To
Yeah.
say,
When
"Hey,
she realizes that
doing
just trying. Yeah. When she realizes that just trying to beat the crap out of Thor is not going to work. Yeah. Trying to just literally knock some sense into him isn't going to happen. She realizes that the one thing that will get through to him is if she goes to his mother.
Yeah. Hey, Frigga! Hate to say it, but your boy's done messed up. And you would have thought that somebody would have taught Thor the #1 rule when you're in Vegas. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. You don't blab!
Yeah. Problem is what happens in Vegas doesn't stay in Vegas. It ends up going to Australia.
Yeah.
I mean, he and Carol's fight ends up literally crossing oceans, and they end up circumnavigating the entire Earth just by hitting each other as hard as they can. He ends up knocking over Stonehenge.
Yep. That had me rolling. Oh
my goodness. So yeah, so she goes to tell on him to his mom, and he realizes that his mom is coming, and he's trying to get everybody to help him clean up the mess. And at first they're not going to, and then he's like, my mom is coming. They're like, oh, Frigga? Oh, yeah, no, we need to clean this up. Everybody is afraid of Frigga, not just Thor.
No. At least they don't say, see you later, dude. It's like, oh, yeah, she's coming. We'll clean up. Yeah.
Yeah. So they had met before she arrives on the Bifrost. They managed to clean up everything. So when she shows up, it looks like a scene from The King and I, with everybody sitting down looking at a chalkboard while Thor is pointing out things. He's like, see, we're having a cultural learning, multicultural learning study session. You're so full of crap.
Yeah, Thor. Yeah, if you think your mom's gonna buy that, you just rolled snake eyes.
Yeah.
Busted.
I mean, it wasn't all bad. Darcy and Howard the Duck got married.
Yeah, they did. Oh boy.
I can't. Mrs. the Duck.
Yep, Mrs. the Duck. Oh boy.
Oh my goodness. So it's like up to that point, it's like, this is just really fun, hilarious, some nice levity after all the seriousness, with like Dark Doctor Strange and zombies and everything. And then Ultron shows up with Vision's face with all 6 Infinity Stones. And I was just like, words I can't say on this show.
You were channeling your inner Darcy.
Yeah.
What the?
It
Shut
was
the front door.
Yeah. We were all in the chat like, what the what? Who's up?
Yeah.
Who's a what's a who? I did not sign up for this.
Oh.
You killed Tony Stark 3 times.
Right. Yeah.
And yay, Coulson is back, which is good.
Yes.
But then you've taken also Doctor Strange and turned him into
dark side cycle.
Yeah.
Strange.
Yeah. So, it's like, why? Yay!
Yeah.
So, but that sets us up for yeah. I mean, that sets us up for essentially the two-parter that finishes us out, which is what if Ultron won? So the Nexus event is if in Age of Ultron, if Ultron had been successful in if the what was it called? The Cradle had finished printing essentially Vision's body before the Avengers got a chance to steal it.
Right.
And use the Vision for themselves. So in this case, Ultron gets his body and is extremely powerful to the point where he manages to launch the nukes and kills pretty much everybody on the planet except for Natasha and Clint.
Yeah.
And so they end up going to the KGB archives.
Yeah.
And the entire time the Watcher is like they're going through boxes and Clint is just like, why are we doing this? It's hopeless, blah, blah, blah. Tasha's like, we have to. And Clint is like going through a box literally, and you can see the manila folder that he needs to come across and pull out. And the Watcher is like, come on. And then Clint would stop and the Watcher would be like, ow, I just stopped.
Exactly. It's like, here, let me point that out to you. Bang.
Yeah. And he's like, I'm not supposed to interfere. Thankfully, Natasha ends up finding it, and it's Zola. So they end up convincing Zola to.
We would have loved to see him again after.
No kidding.
War and Winter Soldier.
Yeah. So it ends up convincing Zola to help them because he's the last existing copy of himself. So if he wants to continue to exist, he's got to help them. And in theory, if he can get connected to the hive mind that Ultron is using, he can go in and destroy it from the inside. Problem is, at this point, Ultron has figured out that there is a multiverse. And once he goes to a different universe,
SOL.
Zola cannot connect because they have to be in the same universe. In the meantime, Ultron is all like, well, there's other universes and they're not at peace either. Well, I must fix that, and goes and destroys like every other place that we recognize from the MCU, like Xandar and Ego. Although I don't know if I really feel that sad that Ego got essentially eaten. Although if Mantis was living there, that would make me a little sad.
Yeah. Ego being taken out, I'm okay with that. Mantis and a few of the others, on the other hand,
Yeah, he ends up taking out like Asgard and Sakaar and the Sovereign and Ego and Xandar. And then we see some other universes, like the universe where Steve Rogers becomes president of the United States, which did happen back in 1981 in the comics. What's funny is in that comic run, he became president without actually being on the ballot.
How'd that happen? All right.
Write-in votes. Yes. Okay. Write-in votes. So Ultron is just like on a killing spree, and of course the Watcher's like, I can't do anything, I'm not supposed to interfere, I took an oath. And it's not until after it's just Natasha and their little virus of Zola in one of Clint's arrows, because in a kind of bittersweet flop of Endgame, Clint is the one to sacrifice himself this time to help, save the universe, essentially. So the Watcher is all like, okay, this is getting out of hand. Especially when Ultron actually comes after him is kind of the tipping point where Ultron comes after him specifically and tries to beat the crap out of him. And he manages to escape to that tiny little universe that has just that tiny little scrap left where Doctor Strange is living, and asks him for his help. Which leads us to the final episode, What If the Watcher Broke His Oath not to interfere. So this is where we go back to a lot of these stories, and he cherry picks obviously Strange Supreme from that one, Captain Carter, Star-Lord T'Challa, Party Thor, Killmonger, and Gamora, who we actually did not see because that episode ended up having to get pushed to season 2 because of the pandemic.
Right.
Issues with production. There was going to be an episode where Gamora teams up with Tony Stark and defeat Thanos, which is why we see in this episode why Gamora is wearing Thanos' armor and why they're slowly lowering the Infinity Gauntlet into the melting pot to destroy it, is because in their timeline Thanos has been defeated. Now, supposedly we will get that episode in season 2.
Looking forward
whether
to it.
whether we need to, depending on, I guess, if they're going to continue with this, everything is going to lead up to a cumulative thing at the end of the season, or if they will be truly anthologies where each one is separate. I guess we'll see. So that's up to them to figure out. That's why they paid them the big money.
I want to see the episode though. Put it on for extras if not.
Yeah, it's the one episode where Tony Stark does not die, as far as we know. Well, he doesn't die in this one, so we can only assume that he doesn't die in the actual episode whenever we get it. So, but yeah, and they end up teaming up with the lone Natasha with Zola, with her Zola virus. And they do their best to try to stop Ultron, because what they think they need to do is get like the Soul Stone from him and destroy it, and that'll take care of it. But then they realize, unfortunately, that the weapon that Gamora had that can destroy Infinity Stones only will destroy the Infinity Stones from her universe. As we learned in Loki, once an Infinity Stone leaves its universe, its specific universe, then it's kind of useless.
Paperweight?
Yeah, to a point. Somehow the ones that Ultron has on him still work, though, but he's an anomaly, so I just kind of hand wave that. Like, he's a special case. So, like, they end up... They try to do everything they can, including Doctor Strange ends up pulling the zombies from the zombie universe in, hoping that zombie Wanda will slow him down. And
I was hoping...
Which you would think Ultron running around with Vision's face would be enough to set her off.
Yeah, you would think.
But
no.
Yeah. But they end up successfully uploading Zola into and Zola is able to wipe Ultron and take over his body. But then Killmonger ends up stealing the Infinity Stones for himself, and tries to convince the others that they can use them to fix their own respective universes. And they're all like, well, as tempting as that is, no, we're not going to do that because we know that's not the right thing to do. So Strange and the Watcher end up putting Killmonger and Zola into a perpetual battle against each other in their own little pocket universe, which is inside the little pocket universe that Strange Supreme is existing in. So, and now he's in charge of watching them and making sure that they don't get out. Meanwhile, everybody else gets sent back to their own universes, right where they left, except for Natasha, because one, she refuses to go back because there's really nobody there for her. Because literally, she's the last person on Earth, on that Earth. What would she do? Right. Seriously. Yeah. So the Watcher ends up sending her to the universe where Hank Pym had killed the respective Avengers, essentially smack dab into the Battle of New York. So we still, in that universe, they still get the Battle of New York against Loki. It's just with Captain America, Steve Rogers, and Captain Marvel, and whoever else is not dead in that universe. So, but their Natasha is dead, so she comes in and replaces them. And Nick Fury's like, "You're not my Natasha, but I have a feeling you'll fit in really well." And then we get a post-credit scene where Captain Carter is led by Natasha, because essentially Captain Carter at the beginning is there. She and Natasha are going through the same opening scenes from Captain America Winter Soldier, where they're going to the ship to stop the bad guys. But in this case, on that ship is the Hydra Stomper, and presumably Steve is inside. So
right.
So yeah. So they still kind of left us a little hanging there.
Yep.
But like I said, they've already told us we're getting a season 2.
Which is because I want to see how this wraps up.
Yeah. Well, and hopefully we'll get some more stories. Apparently the one of the script writers, like the showrunner or the head script writer or whatever, I was reading, she kept writing like plot lines, and they would be like at one point she'd written like a Guardians of the Galaxy episode, and took it to the people in charge and like, what do you think of this? And they're like, yeah, essentially you have like half of the plot of Guardians 3.
Uh-oh.
So that's not gonna work. Oh. And then another where it's like, well, what if Jane gets doing the Lady Thor thing? And they were like, yeah, no, we're already gonna do that in the next Thor movie because it hadn't been announced yet. She kept coming up and she's like, coming up or pulling things from the comics that hadn't been done yet. It's like, how about this? And I'm like, yeah, we're already planning to do that elsewhere. So, but either way, I loved it. I absolutely loved it. So, I mean, now
it's just pick one, put it on, and enjoy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Although now it's like, now we don't have any more Chadwick.
No.
That's like the bittersweet is like, there's so much potential for story, and let the actors have really fun, just hog wild with their characters. But yeah, this is it. This is it for Chadwick, unless they've got just unused recordings somewhere
Who knows? I'm hoping
they could somehow make it make sense, but it's stuff that he actually recorded for specific episodes. This is it. So
right.
But yeah, so now we have to wait for Hawkeye.
That should be fun.
Yep. So, but in the meantime, if any of our listeners want to share their thoughts on What If, if you're familiar enough with the comics, either the What If series or just anything in the comics that you think would make a good episode, let us know. So we could maybe check those out and read them. So that would be cool. Kind of weird to not have anything to watch. This is weird limbo where we've still got several weeks until Eternals, and then we still have several weeks after that before Hawkeye starts. So really odd.
Usually we didn't have that much of a wait between one Marvel project and another.
Yeah. So, not that I mind a whole lot, because I do have other things I need to watch.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like I'm going to be sitting around going, oh, what shall I watch? I've got plenty on the list. So, but yeah, I think, so comments, all those fun things, feel free to hit us up. You can connect with us on all sorts of ways via our website, which is the5ishfangirls.com. You can email, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. All the things are there for us to connect with you.
Mm-hmm.
So, it sounds like Holly's microphone may be giving out again.
Okay.
Got a little buzz going there.
Okay, I plugged back in and I haven't muted or unmuted for the whole thing, so I guess it's telling us it's time to wrap up.
Yes. Probably. So
that better? I did quick the plug in and plug out. So
yes. So
good.
But yeah, we should probably still take that as a sign to sign off for this week.
Yes. This is Holly from Wisconsin saying good evening.
And this is Rachel in Indianapolis, Indiana. Viva Las Vegas!
You have been listening to the Five-ish Fangirls podcast. You can find more episodes and information at the5ishfangirls.com. Any and all books, movies, games, and any other forms of media mentioned are owned and operated by the respective copyright holders. No copyright infringement is intended or implied. If you wish to support the show, the easiest way is to leave us a rating and review. More ratings and reviews will make it easier for others to find the show. If you wish to support us monetarily, you can do so at patreon.com/5ishfangirlspodcast. All money goes towards fees and equipment to keep the show going. For official Five-ish Fangirls merchandise, visit redbubble.com/people/5ishfangirls. We love hearing from our listeners and encourage feedback. You can email us at fiveishfangirls@gmail.com. You can also like and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/5ishfangirls. Thank you so much for listening, and may the squee be with you.